Hey guys, MA Fish Guy here, coming at you with an update on the fish room. Quite a bit's changed in here. A lot of fish have been added. So let's take it tank by tank and kind of show you guys what's going on and what the plans are for today. First, I have the 120 right here with all the, what I'm thinking and looking at is supposedly panda guppies or some kind of variant of them. So these guys will be moving from the 120 to the, I'm just going to call this a 60. It's half the size and it's a lot easier to remember than 56. So the 60 gallon column over there is going to house the guppies, but first I want to move the canister filter over to there to make sure everything is good to go. It's still cloudy a little bit, so I'm hoping the canister filter will get rid of that. I do have a couple of fish in there just to kind of help get things moving, but with all the bacteria and all this stuff inside of the canister filter, it should jumpstart that tank and shouldn't be a problem. So these guys will be moving, and what's going to be going in here is some big cichlids. They're babies now, but they're going to be big. So I will show you what I'll be adding cichlid-wise to those. We'll start with the top column right here. Nothing whole lot going on in here. In some of these tanks I have single guppies. Now, being that I think this is a panda variant in the 120, I'm separating every female that I can see in there that is crazy pregnant and getting ready to give birth, and putting in a separate tank so I can kind of build the tank back up, build some of the younger fish back up, because a lot of these guys are quite old, so I don't want to just kind of die off and be done. So these three males right here I took out of that 120, and the reason why is they're crazy colorations and not kind of exactly what I'm looking for. So this one came out of that bunch. He's got a pretty cool looking tail, but yeah, this is another one right here. He just looks really tiny and frail, so I really just don't want him breeding a whole lot with some of those. And then I have another similar to all the other boys in there, but I don't know, I'm kind of just watching him because he kind of does this patchy black and blue thing. So I'm kind of letting him develop and see what maybe he'll become, and maybe introduce him into the genetics if he's interesting. Same, not a lot going on with these tanks other than just females in them. So this tank right here, I put a female in, and these guys are about 3 days old right now. I have another female in here, and the reason why I'm not sure if they're pandas or not, the males kind of resemble them, but when you look at some of the females, there's definitely some yellow in the tail fin, and from what I've seen, that's really not like a panda trait. So if I can gear it back more towards the panda with just selective breeding, then I'll do that. But at this point, I'm just kind of seeing what these guys give birth to. Next is my son's tank. So right now, it is a little cloudy. That's an algae wafer that's down the bottom that got completely destroyed. One of his females did pass, unfortunately, during birth. We sat down here for probably about an hour and a half watching her and waiting. She gave birth to a couple. We thought it was good to go. Went back upstairs, and unfortunately a couple hours later we came back down. She had passed. Tried taking some of the babies out manually with just my thumb, and quite a few did come out. So we're hoping for the best for them, but he's probably got about a good 10 to 12 baby guppies in here, and everybody else is doing so far so good. Next we have my pair of convict cichlids, and these guys just need a water change today, but they are building a cave in between, yeah, right there, and I'm not sure if they laid eggs yet. I'm really not going to interrupt them at all. Just going to let them do their thing and go for it, and once I see babies, then whoop, there's babies. So I'm very interested. The female has got some really nice colorations, some really nice heavy blues and greens. The male's got some blue on his finnage, but he's just a male that I found that, you know, hopefully we can go with the calicos. And he was the same size, seemed to be the same attitude that she had. There was one other one in here, but she is in another tank right now because they were beating on her, so we had to get her out of there. Next, we have the 40-gallon down here with, this is guppies and platies. So I have some spade tail platies right here in this bunch. About half of them have it and half don't. So I'm going to be pulling the half that doesn't out and probably giving those to someone else that has platies, and then keeping the spade tails because down here I have some of the spade tails in there. And I would just like to selectively do that to see if I can just do something with the spade tail. But there's a ton of guppies in here. Most of these babies, I'd say probably about 95% of them are from the what I think is panda tank. We're just going to call that maybe a panda tank. So this will be the new upcoming stock to kind of see what they produce and what I want to kind of continue on with the genetics. Next, in this 10-gallon tank, I have a red devil that I got. He's just in quarantine right now, so I can keep an eye on him. And we'll kind of go from there. He is going to be going to the 120 until he gets bigger and we get a bigger tank. Next, so this little guy. So this is what I was talking about. I rescued this guy from a pet store. He had a tail fungus, and we've been treating him with the Primafex, and so far so good. I think we're on day 5, but the fungus is gone. His tail has stopped deteriorating. He doesn't really have any open sores, open wounds. He eats 3 times a day actually. But I'm hoping it grows back. He's spunky, and so far so good. So fingers crossed for him. And I'll show you the one that he came with next. So once he's all healed up, grows his tail back, he'll be going into the 120 as well. Next, these guys are a little hard to see, but I did either have a video coming out or did a video. I can't really remember. But these are Medakas, Japanese rice fish. And I got an assorted bag from a local pet store, and some came in okay and some have some weird stuff going on. So I'm treating these guys with a general cure right now from API, just to make sure there's no like wasting disease or anything like that going on, keeping them separated, and we're gonna grow and see what happens with them. And so far, knock on wood, no casualties. Everybody is eating really well. They actually have put on some size, which is crazy to think about, but they're being fed brine shrimp twice a day, as well as I have an Aquatic Provisions guppy formula. That's a small semi-sinking granule, and they eat that pretty well. So next down here in this tank, these are tannins from some wood. And I've read some good things about healing different tears and wounds and stuff like that. So we put her in here probably about 3 days ago, and everything's healed up, good to go. She's eating, and she will be transferring into the 120 as well. So this is the female that was in with the other 2 convict cichlids, and she was just kind of the third wheel, and they didn't want her in the tank. So she healed up actually really well with the water like that. If you are still with me, thank you. We will be moving into the guppies. Let me try to change the light real quick. So these are a mixture of different ones that I've gotten from auctions, but they were the most similar. So we have a nice like black and blue male in there with some brown, and then the females are like a brownish, blackish, bluish. It's an interesting mix. Next I have some, I believe they're called bluegrass. I finally have a male out of here that was developed from the fry, so we're going to see what he develops into and see if we can get this line up and running again. Next I have a little bit of an experimentation with a couple of the fish. So I took 2 males from the 120 that were like white and greenish, the iridescence, and put them in with the only, what I think is 3 females. I know one's a female, that big one right there, and then these 2 are albinos that came from my yellow batch right here. I think they're females, but I'm not quite sure. I'm just kind of waiting and seeing, but they are definitely a lot slower developing than their regular non-albino counterparts. So once these guys can hold fry, then these will be the only males that they have contact with. So we'll kind of see just what comes about that. Next, I have my yellows. The female will be going into a tank for retirement once I get some other females going, just because of her crooked spine. I just don't want that carrying on genetics wise. And all of her babies are taken out and put in with another like mutt tank. But all the babies in here are one that we had previously had that ended up passing away as well. So in birth. That's probably the most down thing that is with this, is with the guppies, is sometimes they do great with birth and then sometimes I just don't. So another one I'm kind of experimenting with for colorations, he's up there stressed, is another panda male in with a bluegrass female, but there is some babies in there. So the female just gave birth 4 days ago. Next is going to be an Oscar. So this guy will be going in the 120 as well. So he came with the albino one, and just kind of keeping an eye, make sure everything's good to go. But he seems real healthy. He eats like a horse. But he'll be going into the 120 once all that's transferred over. And so far so good with him. So yes, I know, 10-gallon tank Oscar. It's not a permanent solution. It is just a isolation tank to make sure everything is good to go and he doesn't have any diseases or parasites or anything like that going on. Next is just another female I have in just to give birth. Then next I have some red Medakas, and these guys came from a different local pet store, and these guys actually are very good quality. I have no complaints. But Medakas are another fish I'll be getting into, as well as the guppies, and I'll be doing some videos on them as well. Next we have one of my new favorites, the polar blue convict cichlids. Nice male and female right here. They had given birth in the local fish store, had laid eggs, everything was fertile, had babies, so I'm just waiting for these guys to do their thing. Heavily feeding them 3 times a day, and then as they get older they will get a bigger tank. But for right now they can just focus on them and do their thing and go from there. Then in this tank I have the yellows, and then I also have bluegrass, what I think are bluegrass. I gotta go through them again. I have a male that's coloring up really quick, but I'm looking to do the bluegrass with the yellows that I bred, just to kind of, like I said, at this point I just want to kind of see what happens and what pops out of it. Next I have my rock cribs, and these guys honestly really aren't doing a whole lot. I was hoping they'd have fry by now, but it's a male female, just nothing's coming about it. So these guys might go to the auction when I go in March. And last but not least is, I can get her in focus. This is the mother of all those spade tail platies, and as you can see with her tail, she's got the spade tail on it, but it is a lot lower than what it should be. It's almost like in between a spade tail and a sword tail. So I'm raising the fry. We'll see what comes about that, but I'm just kind of holding on to her because I know that she's pregnant again, and I just kind of want to see what babies are coming out so I can grow them up. But that is it. That's all the tanks that have fish in it. I will be consolidating some. I do have an auction coming up in about a month. So I'll be going to that, and then I have another auction after that in about a month after that. So I've got to move some fish around, get some babies consolidated, and clear up some tanks, and then I'll be ready because I know there's going to be some fish at those auctions that I want and I would love to get my hands on. So, and auction fish for the most part you can get for a good price. So I want to kind of see what comes with that. Normally I stay under $100 at an auction, and I'll walk out with a lot more fish than I would when it comes to going to a pet store. So that's why I love the auctions, and you can see some weird stuff, some rare things, and things that you didn't even know existed. So that's what I love about it. And you get to meet some really nice people, really informational people when it comes to this hobby that know a ton of stuff about it. So it's a learning experience. It's a fun experience. So if you have local auctions in your area, I really suggest getting out and mingling. And if you have any clubs, get out and mingle with those guys as well. So thank you guys for watching. I know it's been a little bit of a long video, but I just want to give you a rundown of what's going on before I change some of it today. So I'll be posting more updates every week to kind of give you guys a rundown so you guys can keep track of what's going on with the progress of the fish. But that's all for right now. So thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button.